Hello everyone and welcome to Re-envisioning Acquisitions with Rialto, how a book ordering platform transformed our monograph ordering process and optimized our reporting abilities. I'm Lori Winke and I'm the Acquisitions and E-Resources Librarian at SUNY Oneonta. I came to librarianship as a second career after working in museums for almost 2 decades, and I've just finished my second year here at Oneonta.
I'm Betsy Tucker, and I'm the Acquisitions and Collections Management Assistant at SUNY Oneonta. I graduated with my MLIS in 2020, and I've been at Oneonta for about 6 months.
So the goals of this presentation are to review Oneonta's previous monograph ordering processes and workflow, outline the implementation process for Rialto adoption, explain the impact of a new ordering platform on our monograph orders, and share how our reporting capabilities were enhanced with Rialto. So to provide an overview, SUNY Oneonta is a mid-size 4-year public college in central New York, specifically in the northern foothills of the Catskill Mountains. Per the 2020 census, the city of Oneonta itself has a population of just under 13,000 people. Betsy and I work at the James M. Milne Library at SUNY Oneonta, which you can see here in the photo included on this slide. Our total enrollment at Oneonta is about 5,900 students, which includes students in both our undergraduate and graduate programs. Each year, our monograph budget is determined by our library director in consultation with the head of CDRMS, which is our Collection Development, Resource Management, and Sharing Department. Last year, our monograph budget was about $70,500, and those monies were divvied up between 28 academic departments and the library. The breakdown of monographic allocation monies is 70% to academic departments and 30% to the library. The library's portion is divvied up between the library director, reference materials, and the liaison librarians, who are expected to use their allocations to build out the collection in their assigned subject areas. Monograph allocations for individual academic departments are determined by a specific formula that was designed to provide equity across academic departments by weighing a number of factors. And this formula was developed by a shared governance campus committee that is a subcommittee of our library committee. Where we started. I began working at Oneonta in July of 2020, and a couple of months later, our longtime acquisitions assistant retired. Subsequently, I was left in charge of monograph orders, a process I was still learning, while also tackling my primary duties as the Acquisitions and E-Resources Librarian. At the time, Gobi was our primary book ordering platform, and I found it to be both clunky and difficult to use. The faculty as well struggled to use the platform, even after I created additional documentation and training materials for them. We use the Gobi platform for title searching and title selection, and often these workflows were duplicated by the librarians and faculty. Also, we had a history of faculty emailing the former acquisitions assistant directly with their orders, a workflow that completely fell apart with our assistant's departure. Faculty were used to one-on-one back and forth with our assistant, and I did not have the capacity to provide that level of personal service and organize their title lists and get the requested books ordered. I attempted to funnel title requests through liaisons rather than to me directly, but my efforts were not successful, resulting in a mountain of work I had to do myself. Since we were short-staffed, I looked to identify and eliminate redundancies in our workflow and streamline the monograph request process for academic faculty. Reimagining the monograph ordering process. Since there was not much overlap between myself and the assistant in terms of training, the library director encouraged me to consider how the existing acquisitions workflow and processes might be improved for monograph orders. Immediately, it was clear that we had difficulty receiving and organizing monograph title lists from faculty, in large part due to too many communication channels and the limitations of our ordering platform. It was also a struggle at any given moment to understand what had been purchased and/or received. I had to track everything outside the system with a massive spreadsheet that required manual checks in multiple systems, as well as a heavy data entry load. The responsibility of sending title requests to the library is assigned to a representative from each academic department who serves on our college-wide library committee. As new representatives cycled on to the library committee each year, they had to learn how to use Gobi, and this seemed untenable as the platform was a struggle to use for even seasoned users. I attempted to improve the process using Gobi the first year without an acquisitions assistant. I set up a group of shared folders in Gobi, one for each academic department, and created new documentation to guide faculty in the use of these folders for their title requests. I also encouraged departments to go through their librarian liaison with their orders, which would allow for triage-like vetting before the orders reached me. My initial efforts to revise the monograph ordering process and workflow and to improve communication between the library and faculty were an epic fail because we were using the same platform. Some departments used the folders I created for them in Gobi, some departments created additional folders that they did not share with me in Gobi, and some simply sent their list to me directly via email. Instead of improving any part of the process, I had inadvertently introduced another layer of difficulty that appeared to help no one. As I prepared for the next fiscal year, I knew that I had to do three things: manage faculty expectations better, provide a simplified process for monograph orders, and ask the librarian liaisons to take on greater responsibility for the processing of the departmental title lists. As I was pondering what to do next, I serendipitously heard about Rialto and attended an information session to learn more about the platform, which seemed to offer us greater promise for success. So, in comparing the ordering platforms, I brought what I learned from the Rialto webinar to my supervisor and the library director, both of whom were in favor of trying something new. I provided an analysis of what improvements Rialto offered as an ordering platform over our current use of Gobi. I should mention that I had many meetings with Gobi representatives to get training on the system and assistance with orders, and they were more than helpful. But the platform had a clunky interface and was difficult to use for me, for the librarians, and for the faculty. The ordering process was extremely labor-intensive in terms of data entry alone, and our holdings information was often inaccurate. In addition, I was unable to track orders within the Gobi platform with a comprehensive perspective on order statuses across the board. By contrast, Rialto offered a user-friendly interface that was already familiar to librarians that used Alma, like me. Rialto also offered real-time holdings information not only for our library, but for our entire SUNY consortium, which SUNY is the State University of New York, and it's comprised of 64 campuses that are located across the state. So in having this comprehensive snapshot of holdings across our SUNY network, we were able to understand which titles were essential purchases and which could be supported by interlibrary loans. Finally, the ability to track order status in real time and pull comprehensive reports directly from Alma moved us toward the adoption of a new ordering platform. So in fall 2021, we undertook implementation of Rialto. Once we decided to move to Rialto, we were assigned an implementation manager by ProQuest who guided the implementation process. Overall, it was an easy setup with minimal effort on our side, and the entire implementation cycle took about 7 weeks. We began the setup process for Rialto implementation in late October 2021, and then we launched the Rialto market in November, which included limited staff training that included myself, the head of CDRMS, and our library clerk in acquisitions. Next, I began ordering and tracking a limited number of monograph titles to work out any issues with the ordering process. Some calibration was necessary, but almost all of this was handled on the vendor side by the implementation manager. We finalized the end-to-end workflows in early December 2021, and that completed the implementation process. My initial efforts with Rialto prior to Betsy's hiring in the spring of 2022 included the creation of Rialto lists for every academic department that we served, the creation of ordering templates for academic departments with specified format types, and the onboarding of librarian liaisons and the basic use of Rialto lists for their assigned departments.
When I came to SUNY Oneonta, reorienting monograph acquisitions. Before I came to SUNY Oneonta, I had little experience with this type of monograph ordering. Most of my ordering duties at the previous library where I worked in acquisitions had been firm ordering with their smaller vendors. I had taken on one EDI vendor by the end of my tenure there, but both the required workflow for and the size of the Gobi order meant that while it was explained to me at some point, processing it was a job for a full-time employee, not the part-time graduate assistant. So with the context of this previous knowledge, I was pleasantly surprised by Rialto. Its integration with Alma makes the ordering process pretty streamlined on my end, with most of the EDI work done on the vendor side. I was able to get right into getting through the library's backlog of department orders without spending a lot of time learning the new system. It also gave me more time to put different reporting processes into place. The best thing about Rialto has been the ability to automate a lot of searching and ordering tasks. For example, the cart template function let me fill in the information for many line items at once, rather than doing them one at a time, making my order processing time that much faster. The biggest drawback has been that Rialto's marketplace isn't always the best at knowing an item's availability in real time. But I believe this is a problem with library ordering platforms in general and not exclusive to Rialto. Overall, the benefits of using Rialto greatly outweighed this issue. After the ordering year was done, Lori and I hosted a training to get liaisons up to speed on using Rialto list functions, since many had used our traditional Gobi workflow of directly emailing spreadsheets of requests that I then processed on Rialto. Next year, we hope to move the liaisons exclusively to inputting their requests on Rialto when the item is available on Rialto. So before Rialto, the workflow started when the academic department would create a list of titles they wanted and send it either to their liaison or directly to whoever was in charge of executing monograph orders. And that, at that time, that person would input the titles, check to make sure they adhered to the library's collection development policy, i.e. weren't duplicates, and order them if so. If so, there were a few problems with this workflow. The departments had no standardized book list template and so didn't always provide the necessary information to the library for us to retrieve the correct title from the ordering platform. There was also no clear guidance on whether the book list should be sent to the liaison or the person submitting orders to the vendor. Finally, there was a fairly large amount of duplication on the title lists, as departments don't tend to check the OPAC before requesting a monograph to make sure it isn't already in the system. That duty was left to whoever was ordering the monographs. The new workflow for titles available in Rialto is clearer. The liaison receives a list of titles from their department, who have ideally used the spreadsheet we created at the end of last year, to enter information about the titles they want. Then the liaison enters that information into the corresponding department list in Rialto, where they can use the real-time holdings data to avoid requesting duplicates. Then I, as the acquisitions assistant, look at the list, double-check to make sure we haven't missed any library-held titles, and that the requested format is correct, and add the titles to the cart for checkout. I apply the cart templates, then check out and make a record of the purchase in a separate spreadsheet. Even with all of this streamlining, there are two ordering cases that we've run into routinely since we implemented this workflow that requires something slightly different. One is if the book is not available in Rialto, in which case we revert to the old ordering workflow with much clearer guidance. The department should send those requests to their liaison, who will send them on to me. For rush orders, we've created a separate list in Rialto that is checked and cleared once a day. transforming monograph communications. By routing all monograph requests through librarian liaisons, we give the departments a consistent point of contact within the library for all their ordering needs. However, we also created another layer of potential miscommunication between me and departments. So, in order to ensure that everyone's picture of my monograph ordering was consistent, I created end-of-year title lists for each department. These lists, sent to individual departments and their librarian liaisons after fiscal year close, allowed everyone to see what was purchased with their department's money, which of their requests were not purchased, and why. This puts everyone on the same page as we begin a new ordering year and raises department awareness of their annual budgets and what they're spending on monographs. The hope is that this data will motivate historically low ordering departments to spend their budgets and steer their collections in the way that SUNY Oneonta's monograph budgeting system is intended to. For liaisons, these show which departments are using their monies to best advantage and which may need a little more motivation or even liaison intervention to do so. At the beginning of our first full ordering year with Rialto, we are in a better place than we were last year. We can track spending and compare purchase requests to existing holdings more easily, using a combination of Rialto's capabilities and external spreadsheets. Our ability to be more transparent with departments about their purchasing will foster communication and ideally lead to a monograph collection that is more reflective of the academic makeup of our campus. Moving forward, we'd like to teach librarians more about Rialto's recommendation functionality. So there are two major types of recommendation lists possible with Rialto for ordering. Both are generated using profiles set up on the user side. Potential criteria include LC subject headings and call number ranges, publication years, and many others. For example, lists can also be programmed to exclude institutional holdings. Recommendation feeds are only viewable by people with Rialto or ALMA access. The number of results they can generate is unlimited. Title alerts can be viewed by Rialto users as well as non-library faculty who don't need ALMA access. This is because, rather than living in Rialto as recommendation feeds do, title alerts can be sent via email to faculty, who can use the links to view only those lists they have access to without any greater ALMA permissions. The downside to title alerts is that they only yield a limited number of results, based on parameters set when the alert is created. A third related configuration capability in Rialto is the ranking profile. This allows the institution to set up algorithms to put titles on lists, recommendation feeds, and title alerts in a specific order. One really useful thing we've been able to do with this so far is put our title alert lists in an order based on the department's preferred format. Some departments prefer print books with any binding. Others want as many of their titles as possible to be ebooks, and a few like to purchase specifically paperback versions to make the best use of their funds. With ranking profiles, we can tailor alert lists to show even more precise results based on department preferences. Though these functions have a lot of potential, non-CDRMS librarians don't know much about them. We hope to create ways for librarians and faculty to take advantage of all these capabilities, including potential additional training for librarians and greater publicization of title alerts for faculty at library committee meetings. Since some departments used Gobi as a selection tool as well as a request platform, having a viable replacement in Rialto will further increase its usefulness to us. The second future goal for Rialto is more immediate. We've already done work to streamline the request process and clarify liaison and CDRMS roles in it. However, there are always improvements to be made. To enhance the streamlining, we're in the process of setting up an internal approval structure that will allow liaisons to send purchase requests to me directly rather than putting them on intervening lists. This will be particularly useful in urgent situations and hopefully allow us to phase out the rush list for something that notifies me of additions more actively. That is the end of our presentation. Thank you so much for attending. Feel free to contact us via our campus email with any questions that we don't answer in this Q&A.